All right, here we are. We're good. Okay. Usually, I will be playing my flute and some music to, as an intro to what we're going to do. But today, I'm going to get away from that for a second because time is of the essence. Things we're going to talk about today. It may appear I'll be all over the place with some information and things, but I don't like to waste time, and I want to be able to make sure I give you the information that you need. All right. Now, first thing, I want to give a shout out to my son's store down there in Georgia on Ponce called Tech Genius. If you got a computer, you got a phone, any type of work you need done on those things, he's the man for the job. My daughter Aida is Diva Pink, and she has a program that she does for helping to promote and uplift the spirits of women, self-confidence, and self-esteem. My youngest son, Alabas, he is a professional photographer. It's there. So be sure you contact them if you need any of those type of services. Also, I'd like to mention that if anything that we say today has any value to you, then we ask that you donate. You see my Cash App and my Instagram. Copy that down and please give a donation, no matter how big or how small. We will appreciate it greatly. And I want to thank you in advance for doing so. Okay? Now, before we get started into what I have here, I have a few things that I jotted down, a few things that were on my mind, and I just want to get off my chest first before we get into what I'm going to talk about today. One of the first things I noticed is someone sent me a copy of a video, and the video was about Bill Gates' wife and something that she said in respect to that people of color, i.e., black people, need to get this vaccine that they're supposed to be coming out with first. They should be the first ones to get it, and because of the problems in the black community, as they say, the hypertension, the high blood pressure, heart disease, all these type of different diseases that is saying is what's causing the majority of people who are dying who are of color. They want to get to you all first. Well, they ain't getting to me. I'll tell you that straight up. All right. But the thing about it is that I find interesting is that when this disease, this here COVID and this here coronavirus came out in the beginning, it was apparent that a lot of people of color were not really being affected by it. So it seemed. So what happened is what did they do? They realized that you're saying, well, hey, it ain't going to bother me that much. I'm in pretty good health. They turned it around. They did a switch about. And so the thing I want to remind you is I posted it on my Facebook page and on my Instagram page that back in the early 30s up into 1970s, where they were injecting black people as guinea pigs with the not the virus, the syphilis. Just seeing how it works on them. So I'm not trusting anybody's vaccine. I'll come out and I'll say it, like it, dislike it. Another thing too is that I want to bring your attention to this fact that things that are happening today are happening very rapidly. We're in the matrix, as you want to call it. But remember, while you are in the matrix, as Morpheus said to Neo, look around you. What do you see? You see doctors, lawyers, all kinds of people of profession, and these people are not ready to become unplugged. They have drank the Kool-Aid. They are in it all the way. And as he says, these people are the enemy. So don't trust everybody. Like they say, what's the expression we have? All skin folk ain't kinfolk. Pay attention to that. Everybody that looks like you on both sides. I don't care whether you're white, Asian, black, whatever it is. Remember, everybody. The thing too is that I want to express that to show you how things work that you might not be aware of. If you're watching the television, which some of you do, I watch it from time to time as well, you'll see that a few weeks back, it was the forest fires. It was the forest fires burning up California all over the place. All kinds of stuff was going on. They're going to burn this, they're burning that. People losing homes. That was up front in the media. Up front in the media. Pump, 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 pump. Then when you got enough of that, they switch it back to COVID. Now it's COVID. And COVID is doing this and COVID is doing that. People are dying here, people are dying there. And then when you get tired of that, the hurricane, the floods, all these other things that happen. The media plays games with your mind. It's a mind game. They know how to keep your attention. They know how to keep you distracted. The thing where you have to pay attention to that. Don't fall for the bullshit, because that's a lot of what it is. You have to, as we say, free your mind. Open that eye of truth and see what's going on. All right, those are some of the things I want to get off, off my chest, because like I found it to be very disturbing that this woman here, who is not a doctor, she's not a scientist, she's not anything but a woman who's married to a rich guy that does computer shit, to say to people, this is what we need to do with the vaccines. Like, fuck you. I mean that too. All right, now, the thing I always say is this. 3 things. If you don't remember, I'll tell you what they are. Intellect, critical thinking, and common sense. All right? Away from emotion. What they are doing, they are trying to get you emotionally involved in these things that are going on, so that you don't have your mind free enough to think and see what is happening. There's a few movies I want to mention and videos. You can find them on YouTube or maybe on Netflix. But it's important that you watch these videos, watch these movies, because within them they are telling you things that you need to know. This one movie is called Genetic Roulette. Okay, they are playing with your lives and with your food. If you watch this movie, this video, it's on YouTube, called Genetic Roulette, you will change everything that you feel about the food that you are eating. How your food is being tampered with for years, not just recently, but for years they've been messing with your food, and there's all kinds of genetic shit going on, and you have to be aware of this, because it does have an effect upon you in all ways, all aspects, from the top to the bottom. Watch that one. And another one that you should look at is the Poseidon Adventure, about the ship that turns upside down, and how a bunch of people, because they believe in some shit, are going one way, and other people are going another way. Watch that movie as well, Poseidon Adventure. Another one is called Conspiracy Theory. It's Mel Gibson. I'm not a fan of Mel Gibson. I don't really care for him that much, but the movie has a point. The movie has something to tell you about things that are going on, that they're showing you to educate you. These are all educational things. Also, the movie called Wag the Dog. That one is a real good one. That shows you how the government creates shit to distract people from shit so they can do their shit. Okay? Then you have the Manchurian Candidate. Some of you may have heard about that one, but that stuff is real. There are people out there who are waiting for their trigger to do what they have to do. And the next one is called Network. Network deals with a lot of media and how it works, how it's used to control the minds of people, and how they use it to dissuade you from thinking one way into another way. Then the next one, which is my all-time favorite, They Live. I just finished watching it the other night. I'll never get tired of watching that movie. Another movie where they show you how they play with your mind through subliminal seduction. By the way, that's the name of a book. A book called Subliminal Seduction in Media Sexploitation. Those 2 books, if you ever read those, I read them back in the 70s. Those books opened me up to a whole other way of looking at things. If you can get them, get them. Then the other movie called The Eraser. That one is a really good movie. It has Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. Again, I'm not a fan of his anyway. But the premise of the movie shows you how they can wipe you out. They can go into a computer and take away all of your shit where you never existed. Think it's not real? Be careful. That's the next thing coming down the pike if you don't play the game. All right. And another one is the other, I posted it on my page the other day. It's the one, the George Carlin, about the club that you're not in. If the club George Carlin, just type in George Carlin club movie, club video, and you'll see it, and you'll see how, and where he explains how things go and how you have to wake up to what's going on around you. Okay, these are some of the things that I wanted to bring your attention to in early on, because in movies tell you things that you need to know, because it's all not fiction, it's all not game. It's some of it in there. If you know how to look at things, and if you learn to listen, not just hear, but listen to what's going on and what's being said, you will gain a lot of knowledge, and you'll start to see shit that you need to see. Okay? As my mother always said, I got it written down here. She said, son, believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. Because people are always going to say stuff that you're not going to necessarily believe or understand all the time. Okay, the point is free thought. Become a free thinker. I always put on my post, free your mind. That means that your mind has to be detached from the matrix. All right, remember when Neo was detached from the matrix, and one of the questions he asked, he said to Morpheus, he says, "Why do my eyes hurt?" He said, "Because you never used them before. You've never seen this stuff before. You never know this stuff before." And that's what's going to happen to you. Once you detach yourself from this bullshit, you're going to start seeing things and hearing things and noticing things that have been in front of your face the whole damn time that you have been missing. Okay? Now, the thing about free thought, I'm going to tell you what it means. Free thought is a viewpoint which holds a position regarding truth should be formed only on the basis of logic. A free thinker is a person who forms their own ideas and opinions rather than accepting those of other people. That's what you need to become. Stop accepting the ideas of people who you don't even know, who you don't even have a communication with, but they just sound good, look good, and they may be your favorite celebrity or your favorite singer or whoever, your neighbor, whatever. Develop your own mind and get your free thought together. Okay? It says this here. Figuring things out for yourself is the only freedom a person has. That's what you have to do. Free yourself from these attachments and these distractions and misinformation that's being pumped on you 24/7, day after day after day, hour after hour after hour. And we're getting ready to come into a whole new phase of stuff that's getting ready to happen. All right? Now, what I want to talk about, there's a book too that you should get. It's called The Lies My Teacher Taught Me. Good book. Read it, and you'll find that the stuff that they were teaching you in school have been a bunch of lies. All right? Now, another thing, too, is I want to get into what we call the herd mentality. The herd mentality. What is the herd mentality? Okay. The herd mentality is like when you see those movies in Africa on the Serengeti where you see all these animals. You have your antelope, your gazelles, your zebras, all these animals out there grazing, right? And they're just milling around out there. That's a herd, right? The people just follow the herd. Wherever the leader goes, they just go without question, whatever it is. But surrounding the herd, what do you have on the outskirts of the herd? You have a lion, gazelle. So you have cheetahs, and what are they doing? They are unified. They're together. They're not wandering around their aimlessly because they have an agenda. And their agenda is that to get one of those animals because they want to eat. So what do? They come together and form a plan. Those, if you ever watch them, you watch the lions, you watch the hyenas, you watch the wild dogs, they all come together to do a job. As the herd is unsuspecting. And it's the same thing that's happening today, is that when you go out there and you protest and do all these type of things, what happens? The authorities come, organize, and do what they have to do, and you just scattering, just running crazy, and individually they start picking people off, just like in the herd, without you're not organized enough. And what I find interesting about this, and when I watch the TV and I watch people go out rioting, and they have a peaceful protest, as it's called, but there are those few who kind of go away from it and start going to stores, and they're looting, they're burning stores down, doing all kind of crazy shit. And what I find most interesting to me, my observation, is that those people that broke into those stores and took those clothes and took all that stuff from people, the very next day, where are they at? They're right back outside protesting with the shit on that they stole. They're wearing their Gucci's, they're wearing their Prada, they're wearing their Louis Vuittons, they got their Nikes on that they stole the other day from the stores to go out there and protest again. That's not intellect. That's not intellectual call. That's not critical thinking or common sense. That's just nonsense. That's crazy ass shit. Okay? Now, someone asked me a question. I'm going to get shit out of the way too. Somebody asked me a question about how dirty is cash money, because they're trying to get away from people who like to handle cash now because of the so-called virus and people touch money, which is true in a sense. But it says here, now new money that's come off the press It has a proprietary of antimicrobial substance in it, so it's less likely to have those kind of problems. Now, regular bills that you see every day that you handle, it says there are traces of cocaine as much as 80 to 90% on paper bills. So a lot of money that you are handling has a lot of cocaine on it, as well as uh, methamphetamines and PCP is on the cash money that you handle back and forth, more so than the so-called virus. It says money is not necessarily the biggest conduct for infection, but any object touched multiple times in the course of a day by different people, let's say for instance like a phone or somewhere that you have people opening and closing doors, that could be a problem. Okay, that could be a problem. Now, what I want to do is I want to define some terms for you because a lot of people don't understand what's being done out there. I've written down some terms here, words that you should want to know. All right, and one of the first words that I came across is called a pandemic. What is a pandemic? Not what you think it is, not what somebody told you, but what is it and how it is defined. Okay, a pandemic is prevalent throughout the entire country, continent, or the whole world. That's a pandemic. Now, as examples, the Black Death, which is also known as a pestilence, the Great Mortality or the Plague, was one of the deadliest pandemics recorded in human history. All right, the Black Death resulted in deaths up to 75 to 200 million people in Eurasia, North Africa, peaking in Europe from 1347 to 1351. This type of disease or pandemic, you saw people dropping dead in the streets. You would stand next to somebody and boom, they're gone because of the pandemic. Okay? It says this here. Now, during that time period, there was a group of men who were going around breaking into people's homes who were infected with the pandemic of the disease, stealing their property. And they were doing it very, very well. And they were very successful until they got caught. When they got caught, the authorities said to them, why isn't it that why is it you could break into these people's homes and not be affected by the disease? And what later came known as, there's two titles for it. You can look them both up. They're called the Four Thieves Vinegar or the Seven Thieves Vinegar. All right, they were taking this concoction, a mixture of certain herbs and spices, putting it together, drinking it, and it built up their immune system to the point where they were not affected by the disease. Okay, now an influenza pandemic is an epidemic of an influenza virus that spreads across a large region, either multiple continents or worldwide. Again, it affects a large portion of the population. There have been 5 known ones in the last 140 years. One of the last big ones was the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, Spanish influenza. All right, and this one took an estimate of responsibility for deaths up to 50 to 100 million people worldwide. Okay, now during that time period, if you go back and look at the films and videos and pictures, you'll see people back then walking around wearing face masks. Everybody had on face masks back in 1918 because of this here pandemic, that the Spanish flu, as they called it, which was killing people. The next one to come after that was most recent, was 2009 swine flu pandemic, resulted in under 1 million deaths and was considered relatively mild. Now the thing about the swine flu, if you're old enough to remember to go back then, 2009, there were no face masks, there was no social distancing, there was no shutdowns, none of those things took place, and it killed almost up to 100 million people, or up to under 1 million people, which I find very interesting. Then there's another one that they're talking about, which was the 1957 called the Asian flu, which took the lives of up to 1 to 4 million people. 1957. I remember that one because, believe it or not, I was around for that. And again, no face masks, no social distancing, no shutdowns. None of those things took place or were taking place. So you have to think of what is going on now, where not dismissing people dying or making it lightly or not taking it serious, but what is it about this particular thing that has such a uproar of people having to where you are now programmed. Many of you have programmed where you go out, you have to wear your mask. You got to wear a mask. And I've been out to places where I see people that wear masks everywhere you go, and they are afraid to come within 6 feet of you. It's happened to me personally. People see me and they'll stop and they'll wait for me to walk by before they will proceed. That's how serious they're taking this shit. All right? That's how serious they are believing this stuff. Now, you are on your own. You do what you want to do. I know what I do. Okay? I know what I have to do. All right? Is that you have to do your own research, your own safeguards. Also, I want to bring up at the same time, too, is that if you haven't already, scroll down here, Sandra, if you haven't already gotten your orgonite, this is very, very important for what you're doing with the EMF, EMR, ELF, the 5G. These are our orgonite power products that we have. These things have been created. You see them right here in pyramids, discs, pendants. You have your selenite wands. Selenite wands are great for the negative energies, the vibration, the frequencies as well, which we put into our orgonite. And my orgonite, I speak for mine, no one else's, is made by way of the Wilhelm Reich formulation, and I've been guided by my spirit guides to put this stuff together. I use certain frequencies, certain things are said before these things are made. They're not just thrown together, they're not just thrown resin in forms or throwing crystals in it, and bingo, you got orgonite. That's not how I make it. Mine is done in a specific, any particular way. Contact me if you want to get any of these pieces. I'm going to be having a sale tomorrow on some of these here things that have imperfections or slight things going on with them. I'm going to be discounting some of those. But it's important that you get those. Don't forget these wands. These wands are great if you are a light worker, if you are a Reiki master, if someone who's doing this type of work. One of these wands will be very, very beneficial. And we also have those in orgonite too. My wife creates these here things, and it's good that you should have them. Okay? Now, going back to the 1918 pandemic, it says it killed tens of millions and sickened hundreds of millions. The loss of this many people in a population caused upheaval and psychological damage to many, many people. There were not enough doctors, hospitals, rooms, or medical supplies for the living as they contracted the disease. Dead bodies were often left unburied, as few people were available to deal with them. There could be a great social disruption as well in a sense of fear. Fear is one of the things that's being used. Efforts to deal with the pandemic can leave a great deal to be desired because of human selfishness, lack of trust, illegal behavior, and ignorance. For example, in 1918, this horrific disconnect between reassurances and reality destroyed the credibility of those in authority. People felt they had no one to turn to, no one to rely on, no one to trust. Does that sound familiar? It says, let me read that again. This horrific disconnect between reassurances and reality destroyed the credibility of those in authority. Meaning, it says that, again, I'm going to read this here again because you've got to get this into your head what's going on, because this is a reenaction or a replay of what's taking place. There can be great social disruption as well as a sense of fear. Efforts to deal with pandemics can leave a great deal to be desired because of human selfishness, lack of trust, illegal behavior, and ignorance. For example, in the 1918 pandemic, this horrific disconnect between reassurances and reality destroyed the credibility of those in authority. People felt that they had no one to turn to, no one to rely on, and no one to trust. Does that sound familiar to you today? It might ring a bell to you. Okay? Then we're going to deal now with an epidemic. An epidemic, different from a pandemic. Epidemic over a large area of disease affecting many persons at the same time and spreading from person to person in a locality. where the disease is not permanently prevalent. Okay? That's the epidemic. All right? And another one we're going to deal with is this is the last one. These are words of things you should know and understand. It's called a plague. A plague is a disease that causes high mortality. Pestilence, an infection, epidemic disease caused by a bacterium, characterized by fever, chills, transmitted to humans from rats by means of bites on fleas. This is what causes bubonic plague, as they say. Pneumonic plague, the septicemic plague, any widespread infection or evil, especially one regarded as a direct punishment from God. This is one that people talk about. You always hear about the plagues in the Bible, right? It's one of the plagues in the Bible, the 10 plagues of Egypt, depending on how you want to read the story, it's up to you. But other plagues that affect people, and they gave me this here verse that says, and this is Revelation 18:4, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, that ye not partake of her sins, and that you receive not her plagues." Okay? It says, if you don't want to be affected by this stuff, detach yourself from the system. Detach yourself from the matrix. What you need to do is start forming your own groups and coming together. That's where it's at. You have to stop looking at people and judging them by way of what your values are, what you think is right and wrong, and get together, because you never know who you're going to need in a time of need. All right? Now, there's a video I've got on my YouTube called Jerry Speaks, and it speaks about health and wellness. And there I give you things that you can use and take to help boost your immune system. All right, another one of my YouTube videos called Jerry Speaks, What If? What if something were to happen and you're not prepared for it? I go into detail about things that you need, what you should have ready in case something were to happen. Okay? Now, another thing I want to talk to you about is this thing here of the coming between now and the end of the year. All right, there's going to be a lot of changes coming. Again, I told you last time, keep your eye on the weather. I told you about the weather changes that's happening. I told you to keep an eye on the Queen of England, things that she's doing, things going on over there. You have to start thinking now globally. Another thing I want to let you know too is that pay attention to what's going on with the Pope. Okay, the stuff going on with the Pope and what's going to be taking place next in this next shift, as we might want to call it, is that religion is going to play a big part in a lot of what's going to be coming up next. All right, you heard it here. Religion is going to play a big part in what's going to be coming up next. All right, you got to pay attention to that. I'm not telling you that you shouldn't be religious or whatever your belief system is. That's up to you. But that's going to play a big part in it, as well as to keep you distracted and keep your mind off of what's going on. That's why they're trying to bring back the sports. They're trying to bring back the movies. They're trying to bring back the things that will distract you from focusing on what they're doing. The old pickpocket scenario. They tap you here, you look, and they pick your pocket over here. That's what's happening. You're starting to see this going on with people, and you got to pay attention to this, because these things are not done by just accident. These things are planned. While you're busy doing games and watching these sports and going through this here stuff, these people are working 24/7. You think that when you go to the bank and it closes at 5 o'clock or 3 o'clock or whatever time it closes, or the post office and things close for you to go in, doesn't mean that they're closed. They have another shift coming in that works all night, 24/7. This thing is constantly going on night and day, night and day, night and day. While you sleep, like it says in the movie, they live, you sleep. And because they're working overtime to get what their next game plan is in full effect, so by the time that the shit hits the fan, you're going to be sitting and saying, what happened? What happened? Nobody told me. I didn't know. But you do know. You've been told in many ways. You've been told with many signs have been given to you, signals and stuff. You have to be paying attention. Okay? Um, because you have information comes by way of two forms. You have the exoteric, the surface, and the esoteric. What's going on below? Secret societies, secrets that you don't know. That's amongst those who are in the know. Those who have their certain things that they say to somebody else. If I would say to you, if you can you tie a bow, and depending upon how you answer, I'll know who you are. I'll know how to continue the conversation with you moving further. Because what is being done now is that they're fueling hate. Hate is coming out to the surface. People that you never thought or knew before were so hateful, they are now showing their true colors, which is a good thing because now you know who you have to deal with. You now know who you have to be aware of. You've got to pay attention and watch what people say, watch what people do, and keep your mind open. Don't shut your mind down. Don't shut down any information that's coming to you. Analyze it, dissect it, and fact check. Anything I tell you, if you don't believe me, go and fact check it. And if I'm wrong, then you correct me. The next thing I want to talk to you about is how should I put it? Okay, I'll just say it like it is. Propaganda. Propaganda techniques have been used upon people for the longest. And you don't realize it's propaganda because it comes in a way where it tickles your ears and makes you feel good about certain things, and they use it over and over. I'm going to give you a few of these techniques that they use. There are many of them, but I pulled these out because of the fact that these are the ones that are prevalent in what's going on today. You have to know what's going on because if you're conscious or you're awake, you will see them and recognize them. It says here, propaganda is a communication technique meant to persuade the listener, viewer, or reader to accept a person's concept. All right? To transfer and allows you to form positive ideas about a person, candidate, store, show, or whatever based on an implied connection. The whole idea of propaganda is for them to connect with you on whatever level it is where you're at. All right. Now, for example, it says whenever you see a candidate making a speech and his family stands behind him or her at the speeches, it implies that they have strong family values. It's all a subliminal thing. It's not a covert. It's not an overt. It's a covert thing. Testimonials from others saying that, oh, this person is that, and they're so great and they're so good. That's another form. That's a more direct approach, using a stated endorsement for a candidate, person, store, business, etc., to increase public acceptance. An example of this, and this is what was written there, of this when a former or current president endorses his party current presidential candidate. Propaganda is a way of communication that is used to influence the opinion or decision of a group of people with regards to a particular subject, object, or cause or issue. Propaganda techniques mostly rest upon the revelation of partial facts, convenience of sentimentality, or charged messages so that the audience is able to perform partial evaluation or take emotional rather than rational decisions regarding the subject matter of the propaganda. Propaganda can take various forms. Broadly speaking, there are several types of propaganda, and I'm going to give you some of them today. And you're going to see that this is not by chance, this is real. One of the types of propaganda is name calling. Ding, 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 ding. Pay attention. Two types of propaganda of this form that depend on forming associations between a person or idea or either a positive or negative word or symbol are name calling and glittering generalities. Name calling is just what it sounds like. Make it a negative connotation by calling names, by saying so-and-so is this or so-and-so is that. Okay, it's meant to associate the idea of a person who was against this particular associate. All right, these are all generalities, and they use a symbol or word to make a positive connection in people's minds. Another one is called guilt or virtue by association. This technique is one that a person may be affiliated with a group or an organization by way of saying, well, I understand them, I like them, whatever, and that puts you, like it says, birds of a feather flock together. So therefore, if you speak to them or about them in a positive way, even though you may not be directly affiliated with them, that shows your affiliation. A common example of virtue by association is the use of the American flag as a background when a candidate is speaking at a podium. This suggests the candidate is loyal, trustworthy, and committed to the American ideals. Guilt by association can be achieved by linking a candidate with a person or organization considered to be radical or racist. All right. Another one is the just plain folks. I'm just like you. Don't worry about it. The plain folks technique is a political propaganda construct or scenario in which a candidate is associating with ordinary people. You see them, they'll be with people outside, they're shaking hands, they're at certain events. You see them on television commercials saying that this person is that, and they're the homie type people. You know, they're kissing the babies, all kind of bullshit. That's all part of a propaganda technique. All right, and the last one, this goes into more detail, but I'm not going to go into all of them because they're very extensive. But the last one is scare tactics. Fear is used as a technique in political propaganda to convince voters that their support for an opposing candidate will have dire consequences, such as higher taxes, losing your homes, jobs, or the country's involvement in a war. The most famous fear propaganda, this is one they give an example, is in political history, is the Daisy Girl television commercial. It was used by President Lyndon Johnson, 1964. The commercial depicted a young girl. I remember this commercial too very well. The commercial depicted a young girl plucking daisies off without counting to 10. And when she reaches 9, a voiceover begins counting down from 10 to the explosion of an atomic bomb, followed by Johnson's voice, warning Americans have a choice to embrace the world or destroy it. This commercial was created to suggest Johnson's opponent, Barry Goldwater, would lead the country to nuclear war. That's just a few of these propaganda techniques. But go research, Google propaganda techniques, and you'll see a ton of them and how they're used on a regular basis, not just in politics, but in business, but in all walks of life to convince you to believe what they say. It's all the mind game they're playing with you. Now, the question is this: how important is it to you to know the truth about anything? How important is that? All right, because truth is something that will always stand, no matter what. Truth will come to the surface. Let me tell you a quick story about truth. A friend of mine told me a long time ago. It was just a town of people, and they were milling around, and they were saying, you know, truth is coming to us one day. Truth is going to come. And they were in town waiting for the truth to come. And down the road, quite a ways, truth was on the way. But before truth would come to town, what did the truth do? Truth said, well, it's been a dusty road. I'm kind of not in really good shape. Let me go clean myself up. So truth took off the garments that it had on, put them on the side, and went to the water to refresh itself and to clean up. But not far behind truth was lie. What did lie do? Lie took truth's garments, put them on, and came into town. And people were saying, oh, truth is here. The truth is here. And it so happened that one of the elders in the town approached and said, you know, I know the truth. I've seen the truth. Now, you sound like the truth. You act like the truth. And you talk like the truth. But since I know the truth, I know this. I know you are not the truth. As a matter of fact, if you look down the road, here comes the naked truth. And that's what you want. You don't want people giving you 99% truth and 1% lie. Because a lot of times that's what you get. Oh, it was a little white lie, but it wasn't the truth. No matter if it's a little white lie or a small white lie. And if you're religious in any sense, it says people who lie are going to go to hell. That's what your book says, all right? But the thing is that you have to start paying attention and knowing the truth, because you have not been told the truth on any level in what's going on today. See, now, what you have been given, and I'll tell you what it is here, you've been given what's called consensus reality. Okay? There are things that are real and things that are not real. You have the reality of the seen and the reality of the unseen. And these things that you've been given, as it's called, consensus reality, is what you have bought into and have accepted. I'll explain. Consensus reality is what is generally agreed upon to be a reality based on a consensus view. The appeal to consensus arises from the fact that humans do not fully understand or agree upon the nature of knowledge, often making it uncertain to what is real, given the vast inconsistencies between individuals. For instance, 10 people can look at 10 different things and explain it 10 different ways. They're not all wrong, they just only see it from their perspective, their point of view. And it says, if you change your perspective, you change your reality. Now, consensus reality is this. It's something that people have agreed upon as a reality. All right? Now, you all have seen this symbol before. Now, all of you looking at that, what is that? Can you see it? Okay, you got a picture of it, Sandra? Can you see it? Okay, that's good. All right, now, that is called what? You probably said, well, that's a heart. Bullshit, that's not a heart. But because of the consensus reality, you do this, that's a heart. It's not a heart. This is what a heart is inside, and it looks nothing like that. Nothing at all does it look like that. But that is part of what you have accepted. Another one is this, giving the thumbs up. What does that mean? What does that mean? A consensus reality says, well, that means everything's okay. That means something is bad. All right? Or you'll see a picture of the man who they call Jesus. White guy, beard, long hair, robe. That's Jesus. But that's a consensus reality. So therefore, to some people, that is real. You'll see statues of people who they never even saw, that they've made up. And you will look at that statue and think that it's real. You see the picture of the man on the cross with the little diaper on. And you say, well, that's Jesus. But that's your consensus reality of what's real. Again, you got to get away from those thoughts and ideas. Even like with this little heart thing, is now you have the emojis. If it's red, it's one thing. If it's blue, it's another thing. If it's green, it's another. If it's this color, that color. They've now given it all colors, and that you have said this is what it is. So when you see it, even unconsciously, you are looking at it and saying that is the reality, and it's not. You got to get away from the reality of the seen and the unseen, the things that are real and things that are not real. And you are living in a world of, how can we say it, things that have been given to you and you have accepted as real, and they're not. Because when you begin to pull away from it, start realizing that that shit ain't real, you awaken, you're conscious, you're aware of what's going on. Okay? Now, I'm going to cover one more thing, and we're going to get out of here with this today. And this is one of the main things I want to really talk to you about today, because it's very, very important. And I want you to pay attention, and I want you to listen. All right? This is what the hidden agenda is. The hidden agenda, I'm going to read it straight out, is a class conflict. Several terms are used for it. It's called the race war, class struggle. Now, if you want to get an idea of how that works, there is a writing that was written. Now, it's controversial to when it was written, how it was written, who wrote it, whatever, which is not really important to me. It's called the Willie Lynch Letter. Now, I don't know if any of you or many of you have heard of it, or how many of you have read it, but if you go and read that, it will give you, now I don't care, again, I'm not going to debate who wrote it, when it was written, all that stuff, but the context of what it says in that letter is very, very prevalent, and you'll see yourself in that letter, all right? And it says this here, there was class warfare in America, but it's not so much on the level of the rich and the poor, but between the political class and the rest of the citizenry who bear the brunt of political power and pay the price in lost liberty, in lost rights, property, and opportunity. Your rights are being stripped from you little by little, but you're not paying attention. There is definitely class warfare in America, but not enough Americans are perceptive to know. Those of us who go about our lives earning a living, leaving others alone, are the targets of the aggressive, progressive political class that is erecting a formidable mechanism of bureaucratic domination. At this point in time, we, the people, or private tax-paying sector, are losing the war, and who is in charge? Your rich politicians. Now, do this. Your senator, your congressman, or whoever you have in your state, go look up their salary and how much they are worth, how much money they're worth. What you will find is that those people you see on the television, I don't care what party they're affiliated with, that has nothing to do with me. But when you look at their background, you're going to see that they are multi-million heirs, and they don't give a shit about you. They will sit back and say, well, we want to give you unemployment, but we don't want to give you too much money. Well, they got tons of money. Well, they got millions of dollars. They want to begrudge you $600 a week, enough to make a living until shit get by. They say, well, no, that's too much money, because what happened, they don't want to go back to work because they're making more money than they were before. That's not the case. But these are the people that have the money. Now, it's not about the money for them. What it is for them is the power. They want to hold the power and control over you. That's why it's called the govern you men. They want to govern over you and keep you at a certain status level that they can keep you in control and maintain their power. All right? Now, there's other things here that I was going to get into, but I'm not going to even bother with that. I'm going to give you with another movie to go watch so you get an idea of government. It's called The Distinguished Gentleman with Eddie Murphy. You can watch that, and it'll explain to you a lot of how the government and things work and how the system of things are. And again, I want to do my commercial here. If anything I said to you today means anything of value, or what have you, just give us a donation. We'd appreciate it. And we thank you very much for that. But I want to continue to say that the times we are living in now are very serious times. You may not realize it or recognize it, but the time is very, very serious. They are again, they're messing with your food, because if you notice in supermarkets, you go back in there and still, some shelves are still empty. They are rationing certain foods. You're saying, well, this food didn't come in today, or we don't have this today, or that's not available. You'll start seeing the price of gas is going to start to change pretty soon. You're going to start seeing, again, pay attention to the weather. If you're in a climate and you'll see certain things happening that didn't happen before, that's in the weather, pay that attention. You're going to see many earth changes, because the earth is a living organism, and it has a tendency from time to time to purge, or for lack of better words, in a terminology someone said a long time ago, is that it's giving itself an enema, because it's time to clean up. And again, you have to take your mind back away from those who have you in control, have you believing that what they're going to do for you is for you, when in reality, when it gets to the point when it comes down to do for you, well, we can't do it now because of they'll have an excuse or a reason as to why they can't do it, or why they're not allowed to do it, or why they shouldn't do it. But in the meantime, you have put all your eggs in that one basket, and you believe what they say. I don't care what side you're on. It doesn't make a difference to me. As I told somebody earlier today, you have poisonous snakes and you have non-poisonous snakes, and the thing they have in common is they're both snakes. So it doesn't matter whether it's poison or non-poison. A snake is a snake is a snake. So the whole idea is to awaken you to what's going on with things that you may have seen, may not have seen, and that you start doing for yourself, for your families. Start getting together, talking about what's happening, making rash decisions, doing things that's going to happen, in case something were to happen, you are prepared for it in a way where you can say, well, we could have enough together as a unit or as a neighborhood or as a group to survive this next upcoming shit. Now, another thing too is also important. Your immune system, those of you who have weak, compromised immune systems, there are a lot of things that you can take, you can do. We talk about all of oregano all the time, talk about iodine, vitamin C. Vitamin C is very, very important. Vitamin D is very, very important. Your magnesium is important. Your MSM is important. Black seed oil is important. All these things are very, very important for you to start looking into and taking in to boost your immune system. Turmeric. Turmeric is very, very good for anything, along with ginger. Turmeric, ginger, and lemon is a great immune booster. You can do that. All these different things that we're asking you to do for yourself. All right. So until next time, I wish you all love, peace, and don't forget, get that organite, that Oregon energy, get your wands, start preparing yourself and your families because these people are not joking, and you've got to stop playing stop playing checkers and stop playing chess. These people are on the case. So I bid you all peace and love, and this will be on my YouTube channel, Jerry Miller or Jerry Speaks or Gerald Miller. You can find my other videos there. Please go there, watch them, subscribe, share with your friends because I put out some information that's going to be vital to you and to your loved ones. So until the next time, I say to you peace, love. So